It was a blistering summer evening when I rolled into my neighborhood. The air so thick with heat, it felt like breathing through warm syrup. Sweat clung to my neck in a sticky band, soaking into my shirt collar. The sun had already sunk behind the rooftops, but the pavement radiated its stored fury, refusing to cool. I just crawled through a brutal 12-hour shift and was dragging myself home on autopilot. My trunk was stuffed with groceries that had started to wilt and leak through their flimsy paper bags. My only ambition was to get inside, crank the AC up to polar vortex, and collapse on the couch until my bones stopped aching. But as I turned the corner toward my driveway, I saw it. Parked in my spot was a gleaming silver sedan, polished to a mirror shine like it was on display at a car show. My brain hiccuped. I scanned the curb, the house number, even the ridiculous little lawn gnome peeking through my hydrangeas. No mistake. This was my property. And as if that wasn't enough of an insult, the visitor parking space next to it was jammed up by a fat white crossover, crookily pulled in as though the driver had given up halfway. For a long suspended moment, I just sat behind the wheel in a stunned hush, the AK's low whine filling the car. A horn blared behind me, someone impatient for me to move. I flicked on the hazard lights, took a breath, and slowly pulled away. I ended up parking 2 blocks down and trudging back on foot, clutching 3 bags of groceries like some hapless circus juggler. My arms burned. My legs felt carved from cement. By the time I reached my porch, one of the bags gave out, sending a bruised tomato splattering across my welcome mat. I was too tired to swear out loud. Just tired in a way that reaches your bones. But mostly I was confused. Who did these cars belong to? And what kind of person parked like this on someone else's property? I set the rest of the groceries inside and walked back down the short flagstone path, studying the silver sedan up close. Not a speck of dirt, freshly waxed, no HOA sticker, no guest tag. Just a vanity license plate that declared, "Love to Win." The crossover had a lavender air freshener swinging from the rearview mirror, and in one cup holder, a prescription bottle lay half hidden. I sighed and looked around, hoping someone would be outside to claim them. Most houses were dark, or their blinds were drawn. Finally, the guy across the street, Ron, if memory served, poked his head out. "Hey," I called. "Do you know whose cars these are?" He rubbed the back of his neck. That'd be Nancy and her mother, from the HOA. The name hit me like a spark on dry tinder. Nancy, of course. Nancy, who had once sent me a 6-paragraph email because my recycling bin had been on the curb an hour too early. Nancy, who left a note on my porch suggesting I rethink my garden ornament aesthetic to better maintain neighborhood harmony. She was the kind of person who treated the HOA like her personal scepter. The kind who memorized bylaws just so she could enforce them selectively. Her mother I'd only seen once or twice, an older, brittle-looking woman with sunglasses the size of salad plates, trailing behind Nancy like a disapproving specter. I took a long, steadying breath. Maybe, I thought, maybe it was an emergency. Maybe they'd had car trouble. Maybe this was a mistake. So I forced a polite smile and walked 2 doors down to their house, a mirror copy of mine. Except their shrubs were trimmed to military precision, and 2 flags fluttered from the porch. One American, one emblazoned with the HOA logo. I rapped on the door. A moment later, it cracked open just wide enough for a woman's face to appear. Barbara, Nancy's mother. She eyed me like I was selling discount magazine subscriptions. "Yes?" she asked, her voice a sticky sweetness over something hard and cold. She cradled a sweating glass of lemonade in one hand. "Hi," I began, summoning every scrap of diplomacy I had left. "I'm sorry to bother you. I think your car and your daughter's car are parked in my driveway and visitor spot." "Oh," she said, blinking slowly, her voice syrupy with theatrical innocence. "Are they?" "Yes," I said, nodding. "They are." "Well," she drawled, taking a lazy sip of lemonade, They're just cars. They'll be moved. A long, expectant pause. No apology. No motion to actually do it. I'd appreciate it if you could move them now, I pressed, trying to keep my tone even. I need to unload my groceries. Barbara tilted her head. We're not staying long. It's a free country, isn't it? Before I could formulate a response, Nancy appeared behind her, arms crossed, wearing a smug little smile that made my hands itch. Oh, you, Nancy said, her gaze drifting over my shoulders like I was an amusing inconvenience. You really should label your driveway if you don't want people using it. My jaw tightened. It's private property. It's clearly part of my unit. Well, technically, she began, stretching the word like she was savoring it. The HOA designated all exterior pavement as communal space, unless specifically marked otherwise. So unless you have board-approved signage, it's not enforceable. That's not true, I snapped before I could stop myself. Heat flooded my cheeks. I checked the handbook. That driveway and visitor spot are both assigned to my address. Nancy turned to Barbara and let out a soft laugh like I'd told her a corny joke. He read the handbook. Barbara chuckled behind her lemonade glass, so adorable. The door closed, a polite but decisive click in my face. For a moment, I just stood there on the porch, blinking. I wasn't sure whether I wanted to scream or laugh. The next morning, I woke before sunrise with a clarity I hadn't felt in weeks. The anger was still there, simmering low in my chest like a banked fire. But it was no longer the kind that made my hands shake. It was something steadier, something with purpose. I made coffee and sat at the kitchen table, my laptop open, the HOA charter pulled up on the screen. Page after page scrolled by under my fingertips. I read every line twice, hunting for leverage, and there it was tucked near the back, almost an afterthought. In the event a homeowner's property or assigned spaces are obstructed by unauthorized vehicles, the owner reserves the right to engage municipal towing services, provided proper documentation can be furnished. I read the paragraph 3 times to be sure it said what I hoped it did. Then I smiled, slow and certain. I spent the rest of the morning gathering evidence. Photos of the silver sedan and the white crossover occupying my spaces. Timestamps from my security camera. A copy of the property map showing which spots were legally assigned to my unit. Screenshots of the HOA handbook pages Nancy loved to twist to her advantage. By the time I finished, the sun was high and hot, pouring in through the kitchen window. I tucked all the evidence into a neat folder, no drama. No angry notes. Just facts. Later that day, I sat in my living room with the blinds cracked just enough to watch Nancy and Barbara come and go. I wasn't stalking them. I was studying them. They were creatures of habit. Every Wednesday at 8:15 a.m., they left together. Dressed for brunch, Nancy with her sunglasses perched on her hair like a tiara. Barbara with her enormous quilted purse. They'd be gone for at least 2 hours. That was my window. The night before, I called a local towing company. The dispatcher's voice was slow, unbothered, the kind of tone you get from people who've seen it all. 2 cars, you said? He asked. Yep, I said, voice steady. They'll be there tomorrow morning. Unauthorized, private property. He let out a low whistle. All right. Text me the plate numbers and the address. We'll be there. I hung up and felt something in my chest loosen. For the first time in weeks, I slept without clenching my jaw. Wednesday dawned pale and quiet. A light dew silvered the grass, and the sky was the soft pink of a calm before a storm. I dressed and waited. At exactly 8:17, Nancy and Barbara emerged from their house. Nancy's keys spun on her finger in a lazy loop. She didn't look my way. She didn't have to. She knew I'd see her. That was the point. They climbed into the silver sedan. The engine purred, and just like that, they were gone off to their brunch, smug in their certainty that I wouldn't dare do anything. 5 minutes later, my phone buzzed. ETA 3 minutes. Read the text from Travis. The tow driver. I stepped outside, folder in hand. The driveway stretched in front of me like a battleground. The silver sedan gleamed in the morning light. The white crossover squatted across the visitor space, half on the curb, daring me to try. A distant rumble grew louder. Then the tow truck appeared, rolling around the corner like an armored vehicle ready to end a siege. Travis climbed out. He was a big man with sunburned forearms and an expression that didn't waver. "These the ones?" he asked, already studying the cars. I handed over my folder. Private driveway. Assigned visitor space. Documentation, photos, timestamps. "They've been warned." He flipped through the paperwork, nodding slowly. "Beautiful," he said finally. He reached for the controls on the side of the truck, and metal arms unfolded with a low hiss. He started with the white crossover. The hydraulic lift slipped under the wheels like a steel jaw closing around its prey. The winch began its slow, unstoppable groan. The front end of the SUV rose inch by inch. I watched, heart hammering, not with guilt, not with fear, with a quiet, fierce satisfaction. This was what accountability looked like. When the crossover was secured, Travis moved to the silver sedan. "This one's gonna scream louder," he said, glancing at me with a raised eyebrow. I didn't answer. I just watched. The arms slid into place. The sedan rocked slightly as the lift engaged, front tires leaving the asphalt. Two queens, dethroned in the light of day,